Hey, Nicholas with Adventures in Locksmithing here with another Locksmith Reacts to Hollywood. This is going to be the one that really, this idea for this show, or this series of videos have been floating around my head for a while, but I really, what motivated me to get out and do it was actually the South Park Pandervers special. Now, all things clear, I don't really like adult cartoons. I've not seen The Simpsons. I've not seen Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I've not seen a lot of these really famous, as it starts to rain on me here, a lot of these famous, kind of adult comedy cartoons, Ren and Skimpy, all that kind of stuff. So I'd never seen South Park before. But I just had everyone, because of the Star Wars storyline, telling me, you gotta watch this, you gotta watch this. So I took it out. Fair warning, in this clip, I am not someone who uses foul language. I usually keep my videos pretty clean. However, South Park does use that kind of language. And as much as I tried to clip around it, it's gonna appear in there because it's at the heart of some of these moments in the clips. What I saw is a lot of people say, well, the B storyline was kind of weird. It seems superfluous. As much as the nerd in me found funny the A storyline, and there was some stuff there that they were lumping a bigger problem with stuff going on in Hollywood, and really putting it all on Kathleen Kennedy. She has no control over Marvel or the rest of Disney. She just handles Star Wars. There's blame at her feet for some of that stuff, but some of this other stuff, and but I'm not going to be talking about that in this video. I'm going to be talking about the series that they had on the Handyman, and commentary on that, because you can replace Handyman with any of the trade services, because it's a handyman generally is the jack of all trades. He does a little bit of everything, and then you kind of have specialty people who are kind of like handyman for this. So I'm a locksmith, and there's big companies and stuff, and they look at me as high security and these different things, but to the general public, they're calling out a lock specific handyman. And in some of the stuff I do, people call out a handyman instead of a locksmith, and he goes down to Home Depot or goes into a locksmith shop, has the stuff done, and then goes and puts it on the door. But a lot of the stuff I do is, the door just the lock's not working. Well, the door just needs to be adjusted. Just gotta remount the strike hole a little bit, or I gotta put a big screw and readjust the frame so that it lines up right. And that's really a handyman's job, not a locksmith's, but I'm there to fix the lock that they thought was broken, and I know how to do that. I have learned these handyman tricks because I get called out to these jobs saying the lock is broken, and I'll point out to them, look, I can put a brand new lock on there. It's still not going to work because the door doesn't line up. The holes don't match. And so that, fixing those problems. So, but there's a commentary here on a lot of the things that they point out that I experience, both the good and the bad. And so I really thought there was a great message here, and I wanted to go through and share it. So let's go ahead and get into it with our first clip.
It's come to my attention lately that young people today don't know how to do shit. You got your phones and your AI, and you kids haven't learned to be able to actually do anything.
So right off the bat, he's talking about how people today don't know how to fix stuff. And I actually was having kind of this conversation with a customer the other day, where I told them, I said, hey, someone from 100 years ago would probably not have a problem going back 1,000 years in time. They'd probably be able to survive in that society. But we would have more difficulty going back 100 years. That's just how much society is. We have all this great technology. We don't know how any of it works. The power goes out and suddenly, like, stores close. It's like stores worked without electronic cash registers and all that. They used to be able to do. I was like, I was at a gas station, like, you sell pen and paper and calculators. Like, go get your product, sit out here, figure out the tax, and write everything down. And then at the end of the day, you just ring it all up. It's that easy. It's that easy. You put a sign up that says we can only take cash, but like if the cash register isn't powered on, they can't do anything. We can't work because they don't know how to do it anymore. And that comes when it's repairing it. But I will say, he talked about you have your phones and your AI, and I find that there's generations. So we talk about he's talking about this as a younger generational thing. But I get a lot of calls from women, typically now it's 60 and older, that when their husband dies, their husband did everything, their whole life. They never picked up a screwdriver in their whole life. And I'm generalizing here. This is not all women, but it was just a difference of the times. They'll have the lock screws are just loose, and they're like, it's shot, it has to be replaced. They call me out, and I try to go, oh, look, it's just this happens sometimes. Your door has a bit of flex to it because it's a fiberglass door, so as you're pulling, like, the screws, the lock will come loose, but you just take a screwdriver and you go, no, I'll just call you next time. Well, I'm trying to save you the trip, me coming out, because it's a real simple fix. You just got to take, no, I'll just call you. Then you have women that are in their late 30s, but more, I would say this would be more of the 40s and early 50s that don't have a lot of experience in doing that stuff, but want to do it themselves. So they're gonna YouTube it. Sometimes it's a woman in their 20s or 30s, but definitely like the women from like the age range 40s, 50s, and they're a little bit more independent. They've not been doing this stuff, but they try to go find out how to do it on YouTube, whatever, and sometimes they mess something up, and then they call me out, and so I'm going on following up that. Now, when it comes to the younger generation, what do? They go watch YouTube videos and they're better at finding the right YouTube video to watch and do it. It's almost a mixed bag. With young women, I have some who can figure it out, but the younger we get in the generation, so we were talking about women, right? But when it's in the younger generation, all of a sudden it starts being men too. And this is the basic simple things, Most people, you tell them the price for me to come out and rekey something, and they go, oh, it's $55 to come out and $10 per lock to rekey it. And they go, okay, well, it's $15 a lock at Home Depot, and I've only got 4 locks. I could just drive down to Home Depot, buy a key-to-like set of 4, and, not pay your trip charge, and I'll just put them on. Instead of having you rekey my locks, I'll just buy new locks. That works 90% of the time. If you're able to do that, that is something you can do. It amazes me at how many people that is an impossible barrier. And we're talking about, once again, 90% of the time. Sometimes doors have weird prep and they don't match standard, but 90% of the time, you go down, you buy that, and all it is to put it on a lock is 4 Phillips head screws. You have the 2 that hold the lock on and the 1 that holds the latch on. And so, like, it's 4 screws with a screwdriver. It is not super hard. And this is locksmith bread and butter, going out and rekeying, because our expense for that is nothing. The labor is just unscrewing and screwing and then, resetting the lock, but to new pins. Those pins, they cost us pennies a piece. So it's super cheap for us to do that work. So many times I get young ones They're either brilliant, they started out, they get it messed up, or they're completely ditzy. And this is, like I said, men and women of the younger generation, of the, like, in their 20s something, just moved out, and like they have no concept possible, and they will, a lot of times what they will do is they will YouTube it. Like I said, this is something very simple, and they will take the lock off and not be like, wow, this is a lot more complicated than it looked on YouTube, and it's not. And they're already half done. They took the old one off, they've got the new one in the package, and then they go, you know what, I'm going to call somebody. I'm amazed at the amount of people that do that. And that's that. So let's go on here. He's saying, hey, kids, the problem with the world is you don't know how to do stuff. Stuff breaks, and you just buy new. You don't know how to fix it yourself. So let's see what his solution is.
So we're going to take this morning to learn how to fix something. See this? See this? The oven door isn't working. It's falling off the hinges. So what do we do? Shetty?
Okay, I love this because he's like, so he's the older generation. He's able to identify what's wrong. He's like, look, hey, this hinge, I see that that's not right. And once again, this should be a fix that is potentially just a screwdriver, right? I get myself in trouble with stuff like this all the time. My wife is always, fix this, fix that. Non-locksmith stuff, and I'll know just enough to get myself in trouble sometimes, but so I can be guilty of this too. But it's like, no, we need this, and this is why this isn't going to work, especially with anything with screws or something like that. Like I get I recently, we were selling a tent trailer, and the step was broken, and it was the washer, and I was like, no, we need to get this specific kind of washer from there, otherwise it's not going to work right. But he's like, this needs to be fixed. How do we do it? That's the question. So what do you think their response is? Are they going to go, we tighten it with that? Well, let's see.
I don't know.
Wah, wah, I don't know. Oh my goodness. Screws are loose. What do we do? I don't know. So, Dad is obviously now about to school them on how to fix this. Showing them, I remember my dad, he was quite frustrated with me as a boy because I was not very good at this stuff. And he used to take me around, and like he'd have to fix a wall socket or something like that, replace something. And I am a person that has to learn with my hands. I need to be doing it while somebody is telling me what I'm doing. If I'm just watching someone, I don't pick it up. So, what my dad would do, he'd take me around the house, and there'd be certain things to fix. And I have learned, my dad learned it all from a magazine. He used to subscribe to like the homeowner's handyman magazine or something that would be like how to fix stuff. Where it's just how he learned how to, wire up a wall socket or a light fixture, basic plumbing stuff. My dad got all from reading magazine articles. So that was the YouTube of his day. He would subscribe to this, and when he needed to fix something, he would go and he'd get the end of the year indexed issue, and he'd find his thing, find out what issue was, and look at how they solved the problem. And he tried to do it. So we're about to get, the dad's gonna lay the instruction. Let's see what he has for them as instruction.
It's very simple. You gotta make the hinges tighter so the oven door is more secure. So what you do is, you take out your phone and you call the handyman.
Oh my God. Like, this just has me laughing because he says the exact, look, you gotta get the screws, you gotta tighten up the hinge. That's what we have to do. And that would seem like the thing that is something that somebody could work through, right? But he's like, so how you do it is not you go get a screwdriver, not you go get a wrench or whatever. You pull out your phone and you call the handyman. You didn't have to identify that there was anything wrong with the hinges. You could have just called the it's like, hey, this isn't working. I call the handyman. But like, he actually diagnoses what's wrong with it. And it's funny because I have a lot of customers that do that. I have a lot of customers that go, okay, this is the situation. I've been able to tell that this is going on with the lock. I've looked at this and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's probably this. He's like, no, I don't think it's that. I think it's this because, see, when I do this is this. And so, I mean, you're going to have to see this for yourself, but I've investigated it. And so I love that, people fully mess around. Like, they spend the time doing that just to call anyways. And then argue. Like, nope, I know what it is. And it's like, you obviously can't fix it. Let me come out, let me look at it and determine if that's what it is, or if it's what I think. Like, if that's what it is, I'll be able to tell, because that's my job. But this is just so perfect.
Hello? Hello, it's Randy Marsh. My oven door is not working. Please come fix it. Now we rest until the handyman comes.
Oh, how rude that got. Just, hey, this is wrong. Come fix it. This is when you have a customer who you do repeated work for. They get on this basis of, hey, this is broken. Come fix it. Boom. And then you're like, okay, I'll put that on the schedule. And then they're like, how soon are you going to be here? Like, they'll call back and, how soon are you going to be here? And it's like, well, you hung up, but like, I got 3 other appointments before you. It's like, I'm not just sitting around waiting for your phone call. I was like, hey, well, I've done a lot of work with you. It's like, you did 3 jobs with me last year. I got to eat. I'm doing a lot more work than you seem to think I'm doing. But once again, like, I'm not just waiting for their call. There's a lot of people that need my help. And so I love how, like, he's like, hey, this is broken. Come now. Boom. And I have customers that do that. They're like, they especially restaurant owners. Restaurant owners are like, hey, I'm busy, so I'm going to call, get this fixed. Boom. I'm going back to managing my restaurant. And then if things don't get fixed within a couple of hours, they go, like, maybe it's the bathroom lock. And then all of a sudden they call back and say, hey, I thought you were coming out to fix this. I said, I am. I've got you set off at 4 o'clock today. I've got an appointment open. He's like, 4 o'clock? Like, I need... it was like, hey, you called. I'm busy with other customers that had already booked up appointments in advance. I will be out today, but, like, he didn't even... And I would have told you that, but, like, you hung up on me. Problem will get taken care of, but it's not... And what's funny is they will hang up. Then, okay, whatever. And a customer will come complain about it to them like an hour later. And it's still like 30, 40 minutes before I'm going to show up. And they'll call me again. Hey, I thought you were... As we discussed, like, they're just like, this is a fire at my restaurant. Get it fixed. But it's just... So I love the way he just did it. Let's keep going.
Are you following this at all, guys? Is this seeping in?
Nope. No, looks like the screws are totally stripped.
What does that mean? What's wrong?
Can't get her fixed right now. Gotta get some different washers at the Home Depot.
I love how the dad goes from, is this sinking in, to him going, hey, yeah, it looks like the washers are stripped, which, it's funny because the writers of the show, they're trying. The nuts would be stripped, not the washers. The washers, the bolt just goes through. They're washers. You can't strip out the washers. Now, if it's a locking washer, which is basically a nut, possibly, but that would be what it is you'd have the bolt, a washer probably, or a gasket on either side, and then a nut on the other side. And if the nut's stripped, and that's why it came loose, it won't tighten. And usually it's the bolt itself that's stripped It'll be like it threads on, but then when you get to the tight spot, those threads have worn off, and it will slip back. It'll be like you get it almost tight, and you get it to tight, and it pops. The moment it has that force, it pops back, and it doesn't come off. That's why the door isn't falling off, but it's actually like where it needs to be, like that threading stripped out, and so you just need a new bolt. I love the moment though he says that. He's like, what does that mean? I was like, well, you knew it was messed up. Like, this guy should have fixed it. He's like, well, I have to go get it down at the Home Depot. This is a continuous problem. One, service providers like ourselves, everything's gotten so much more expensive. We're not keeping a lot of this stuff in our trucks. Before, I would have a full assortment of every kind of screw that. Now I go in, I used to buy anything that was a common screw that I used. I'd go buy a box of like $250 to $500, and it would cost me $10 to $20. Now it's like $8 for a pack of 3 screws of a specific kind, a 3 or 4 pack. It's insane how expensive screws are, except for like the very basic stuff that still comes, like decking screws or something like that, come in large quantities. But it used to be you could buy anything in like a little box of 50 or something like that, and get out of the store for like $10. Now you're getting like 4 screws for that. And to try to keep all the different sizes you want, it's like you go get that and you do the job and you don't really have any leftovers. Whereas before it'd be like, oh, I need a job for this. You'd pay the $15 and you'd have a box of 50. You use 2 to 4 of them, and then you put that box of 50 in your drawer. And over time, you build up a drawer full of all the different screws, and you don't have to go down to Home Depot. But now, everything is so expensive that, to buy... and a lot of times, when you go to Home Depot, they don't have the box of 50. And I love the Home Depot thing is a run thing, because now we've gotten to the point. We used to have specialty stores, whether it be your locksmith, your plumbing supply, all that stuff. And now everything has pretty much gone to the Home Depot. Man, the rain's coming down. Hope that don't mess up my thing. But so, now I really love what comes next.
Okay, do that.
Can't do it right now. I gotta get over to Steven Stouch's house and install his closet shelves.
Okay, see kids, this happens sometimes, but handymen don't make a lot of money, so here's what you do.
Oh, so much to unpack right now. So, you have a busy schedule. You come by to look at something. You don't have the part. You're going to have to go to Home Depot. First off, half the time, I don't like telling them that I'm getting it from Home Depot, because I rather just tell them I got to order it and come back the next day. Because trying to have a busy schedule, and just the concept of, usually it's like I will get done with a day's work, and then I will drive over to Home Depot and buy the parts I need for the next day for things that I've set up. Because trying to fit a trip into Home Depot during a busy schedule and then back out to a job when you didn't plan for that, and you've got other appointments to be in, it's like I got to be here in 30 minutes. I can't make it to Home Depot and back. Do that. Maybe I could go to Home Depot and then go to this other job and then later in the day come back. But it's just... and they're like, no, they're like, you're going to be there. But it was the statement he made at the end. See, this happens sometimes, but it's okay because handymen don't make that much money. And we're going to see, this is the start of where his worldview is going to be then. And I want to break your worldview of some of this as well. Because, boy, could he not be more wrong.
Okay, I will pay you an extra $30 if you fix my oven now.
Yeah, sorry, but Stouch already gave me an extra $50.
I will pay you an extra $55.
I'll pay you an extra $30 if you take care of me first. The number of times I have somebody call me up, and a lot of time these will be landlords or people who just bought a house or something, and they're out looking at the property, they see something wrong, they call me up, and they want me to come right then. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm booked now, maybe it's 11 o'clock. I go, I could be there at 2:30. And they go, well, no, I've got other things to do this afternoon. I need you to come now. Well, unfortunately, I already have a job booked. I'll pay you $50 if you come do mine, and you do theirs later. No, I've already agreed to do that. And I've had people get real nasty and said, I'm no longer going to do work for you. Sorry, you're going to have to find it. And then they'll get really mad and irate that I was like, I go, hey, my word is my bond. If I set up an appointment, it doesn't care if I was doing what we call a love call. That's like when a little old lady calls and says her back door is sticking or her slider's not working. Something where I'm not going to really make hardly any profit. I'm going to be doing good if I can bring myself to charge this lady enough to break even. You know, it's just a simple little thing, but I'll charge cheap, and then she'll take 20 minutes to write the check. You know, you have these jobs where it's like the fix was 5 minutes, or showing them that they were holding, the reason the key won't go in is they're holding it upside down because their mind's starting to go, and you just can't bring yourself to charge them full price. Oh, well, here's half charge, or no charge today, and oh, no charge. No, I must pay you something, and you know, and you do this whole will song and dance, and then, you know, you're like, man, it took so long to get out of there. You know, it's like I did a full job, but I didn't get paid for it. They didn't need me, but they, you know, so it's a service you provide. I could have one of those, and sometimes it'll be somebody like, oh man, you know, I misplaced the keys in my car. I'll have people, they'll have tons of money. They could just find the keys, but like they just want me to come out, make a key for the car, so they can go do whatever they wanted to do in this car in the afternoon. It's like, oh, it's gonna be a couple hours to come before they'll be. I'll pay you $50. I've had people offer me $100, and it's like, I'm gonna go do a call that's not gonna make money. My word's my bond, but also just the idea they could pay that. And right, he said locksmiths don't make that much, you know, or handymen don't make that much money. There is this concept that their time is more valuable than your time, and we'll get into that a little bit later in this, but that plays into it too. That like, I'm the person with money, you're the lowly person who comes out and fixes things because you don't have money. So I can just grease your palm, and I get. It's the same thing like somebody slipping a waiter, or the what do you call it? The person at the front when you walk into a restaurant, and you slip them an extra 20 to get seated before the rest of the people in line, and yeah, here's a 20. Seat me first. I'm important. Type attitude. It's just this idea like, yes, other people have problems, but I have an extra $50, so my problems are more important. That attitude is just right, and I love how it's like, no can do. Just love it. Let's keep going.
Look, please, whatever you want. I'll throw in a 6-pack of beer and you can get drunk.
Well, I don't need your trivial little perks anymore, Marsh. I got work coming out my ears. It's like, I don't know, it's like nobody knows how to do shit anymore.
There it is, the reality shattering moment. It's like, hey, I'll throw in a 6-pack of beer. I'll give you stuff. I have restaurant owners, hey, I'll buy you lunch. We'll pay you extra. We'll pay you double what the product costs. And it's like, no, I have these other commitments. I got to go do that first. Or I got to order the part. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not driving to Sacramento to pick up the part and driving back and, like, leaving all my other customers high and dry. I'm ordering it. It's going to ship out and be here tomorrow. And we'll put it in tomorrow. Put an out of order sign on it, you know. Put a sign that says use other door and put a cone in front of it. Whatever you got to do. You know, and of course I don't leave my customers dry. You know, I try to, you know, if they can't secure a building, I find a solution that'll secure it for the night. But it's like, hey, until the parts come in and whatnot, or I have the time. Like I came out emergency wise. I came in, I squeezed you in between two appointments, maybe worked through my lunch, and I come out and I got it to work temporarily. And I said, don't sit here and test it a bunch. Like this is gonna get you through the night. And then tomorrow morning I will be out and we will get this thing fixed. But this is you were vandalized. I got it temporarily working enough that you can get through the day, but just, you know, you'll be able to lock up tonight. But don't sit there and no. this. Look, I did the emergency thing. I came out, got rid of a break or a lunch or something to get you taken care of. But now I got to go take care of my other customers. Like, I've got it to the point where it's not emergency. It's not ideal, but it's not an emergency. It's like, but just that moment, I don't know. I got work coming out my ears. It's like all of a sudden, people don't know how to do stuff. 2020 and 2021, I worked 80-hour work weeks. It was insane. Some of the other people, I had other locksmiths go out of business. Some stopped working during that period of time. The amount of work, and I get people call me up for all sorts of things that I don't do. Do you do this? Do you know who does do that? Like, I know you're a locksmith. Like, do you put in security gates? Do you install doors? Do you put this in? Do you put that in? Can you install a nanny cam? Can you, I all the way to, I get people who ask me about plumbing and electrical. Like, they call me up and I was like, yeah, I know this might sound strange, but do you repair phone outlets? What do you mean? Like the phone jack? Yeah. No, I don't. Call the phone company. Call a phone repair guy. Well, it's like people call, and the moment they get you to answer, and you tell them, no, I don't do that, they're like, are you sure? Well, who would you recommend? Okay. Well, do you have any advice? Like, maybe you could help me walk me through it. I'm like, no, I can't, because I'm a locksmith. I'm not an electrician, or I'm not a telephone wire guy. I'm not a, name your poison. I'm not a plumber. I'm not a painter. But I get calls for stuff. And it's just people going through the phone book or going online and, looking through handyman reference, and like, they're just trying to find people who can do stuff. And I was like, I get calls out all the time, people wanting to know if I can do garage door openers. And they're like, well, can you program it? And I go, well, that's not a service my company provides. I probably can, because I've done my own. I've been on jobs where people have asked me, and I've gone and I've done it. It's, once again, 90% kind of thing of them. You push a button on the thing, you hold it for like 8 seconds, and then you push the button on the remote, 5 seconds, and release, and and the instructions are right there. Some models are specifically a little different. You just type in the model number on your phone, and program the instructions or owner's manual, and you will get everything you need to know to program that one. So it's a straightforward thing, but like, they can't find somebody. They cannot find somebody to come do this. Well, since you're coming out and doing this, would you possibly be able to do this? I've like had people like, oh yeah, do you do car remotes too? Yeah, I can do that. And I'm doing that. Oh, okay. Can you program my Ford's got the thing set so that you can't speed, you can't go over a 70. It's clocked there because it was a rental vehicle before. Is there any way that you can program that so that it doesn't? It's like, no, I'm not a mechanic. I don't. People need people who can fix stuff, and nobody knows how to fix any. Like, people don't do any of their own stuff anymore. Now, that's a generalization. There are random people who are very much go-getters, fixer-uppers, and I work with those people, but it just amazes me at the amount of people that are just at a loss, and you go there and you do a job for them, and then they just have, okay, here's the things I got to ask you. Who's a good plumber? Who's a good electrician? Who do you know that's a good painter? Who has the best internet providing service in the area? Who's, because they need somebody to do everything. Can't accomplish anything. Anybody that doesn't need Stecco work? They just go through the whole gamut of things because people don't know how to do stuff. And we're going to see why that is as we go on. But let's get to the next clip.
You just gonna leave? I'll pay a different handyman. Yeah, go for it, buddy. I got so much money, I don't care. What the hell is going on?
Love this one. You can't do this to me. I'll use a different handyman. Word to the wise. Like, when you're in an industry, you get to know your competitors. Okay? You know what they're not good at, what they're good at, what their rates are, and you usually have a good relationship with them. You know who to be threatened by, who not to be threatened by, and you know very well that, hey, they don't like what you just told them. Well, they're probably going to end up getting low guy in the totem pole that's probably not going to do great work, that's going to come out for like super cheap. Maybe they're not licensed, they're not experienced, they're going to mess things up. And like, that's going to be the person that they're going to get to bend to their will. And you go, they deserve each other. But most of the time, locksmiths are busy, and I give so much referrals to other locksmiths, and other locksmiths give so many referrals to me, like, because it's a feast or famine thing. Like, some days you have 12 people calling you, they're locked out, and you just can't reply to them all in a reasonable amount of time. And so you're like, this is going to be your best bet as the other locksmith that's going to be available for this. And they could be sitting there and their phone isn't ringing. Just for whatever reason, the online algorithm has decided to highlight you because maybe the first person called, you said you could come right away, and they immediately 5-starred you. So now you're at the top of the list and everybody's getting recommended you first. And you're like, well, I got to go do this one, and then this person in this other city. Okay, it's going to be 40 minutes. And then all of a sudden you're like, no, I can't. I've already got 3 different openings in 3 different cities that I'm going to be doing back to back to back. Like, it's starting to get way too far out. You're going to be sitting out there in the cold waiting for me, or in the heat. Call this person. And they're doing it to you when you could be sitting there doing nothing, and all of a sudden you start getting referrals from one of your competitors because they're swamped and you have nothing. And there's just a balancing out like that. And I mean, in the bigger cities, yes, there is a bit more competitiveness. When you are big companies, you know, with 20, 30 employees, well, now you have to pay all those employees. You want to keep them working at all times. And there is a bit more rivalry there. But at the end of the day, the threat of, I will use somebody else. If you're making yourself an undesirable thing, if you're trying to say it's all going to happen on my time, on my dime, on my schedule, on how I want it, and you basically make yourself an undesirable customer, that threat of we're going to use, and it's like, I'll have people all the time that go, oh, so-and-so said he'd do it for this. That's a great price. You should take them up on that. And they're just like, what? They can't understand. It's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you shouldn't take that price away from my friends over there. You know, they probably need the work. You know, if they're giving out that price, you know, use them. I've got another job I got to get to. You know, it's not like, it's just how it is. And this idea that, whew, oh man. This gets me. Let's keep going. Okay, so we're gonna cut it there. I ended up doing this whole video, and it ended up being 1 hour and 8 minutes. I don't know if I've ever put over 20-minute video on this channel. My other channel, I do a lot of long format, but not in this channel. So, what we're gonna do, we're gonna stop right there. Next week, we're gonna go and have the second half of this, about another 30 minutes of it, and that's going to look more at college and some of that, some funny bits there. But thank you for joining me. I think this is a big thing that is something in our culture that we need to talk about. So thank you for watching so far, and tune in next week for the second half.